for discussion approval.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, there is a motion for approval of the June 10th minutes. Do I hear a second?
Second.
There is a second. Discussion to the motion? Okay, call for the vote. All those in favor of approval in the minutes of June 10th, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Okay, passes 4 affirmative and 1 abstention. Supervisor Delbar. Move to the number 5, the consent calendar. To the clerk, has proper notice been established?
Yes, including the agenda addendum that was published on Friday.
Correction, and that was item 6. So there, those items before us, discussion on the consent calendar. Supervisor Pinches.
Mr. Chairman, I want to pull item number 3 on the regular consent calendar for discussion.
Okay. Other members of the board, items to be pulled. Okay, what's the action of the board on the consent calendar?
I'll make a motion to approve the remainder of the consent calendar.
Okay, motion to approve the remainder of the consent calendar with item 5.3 pulled for discussion. Is there a second? Is there a second for the motion?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion to the motion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the consent calendar with item 3 pulled signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion passes. Let's take up item 3 then, Supervisor Pinches.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, in light of the tight budget restraints, I was looking at this, and maybe I don't know all the details, the summary is pretty basic, but to go from basically a $20,000 cost to a over $51,000 cost, that's about, better than a double increase. And I just think at tight budget times is something that maybe, we ought to look at. I realize that we do need to lease, some space, but also with actually less employees in the county than we did have a year ago. Maybe with some reorganization, it would free up some county-owned spaces at a different location. But I just think that's a tremendous increase in rent for, that's my call on it. I just think it needs a little bit further review. I mean, we're talking about over a $30,000 increase here, which is a lot of money. I mean, that could fund at final budget deliberations. That could fund some small projects, whether it's funding for the library or the Arts Council or something like that. So I just think that what I'd like to see is have the CEO's office take a second look at this and maybe look at some, through our general service agency, look at some restructuring of where these, this space could be maybe utilized without renting it.
To the CEO's office.
Thank you, Supervisor Pinches. Actually, the GSA Director, Kristen McMenamy, and I did tour the facility on Friday. The facility has been below market rent for a long period of time. There was some confusion in the part of the city whether or not that facility was in the RDA or not, and that clarification is what's caused the increase in rent. It is still significant savings from market rate that we're getting from the city. The facility, I think, could best be described as what it once was an old jail. So staff is pushed in the little cubby holes throughout the facility. If there was another option that was available, we'd love to get the staff relocated to another facility. There just is not funds available. We have looked several times over the last few months at different projects where we can combine space and so forth, and there's been nothing that's popped up on the radar screen where we could put these people. So we acknowledge it is a dramatic increase in rent because of some very specific reasons, but it is below market, and if we could find another solution, we'd love to move the employees someplace else.
Supervisor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To the CEO, it references here that this is a 3-year and 2-month lease with the rental increase going into effect July 1 of this year. Is there the ability to have an exit clause in this? In other words, if the county finds something in the next 18 months or so, or whatever, that we would want to make changes before the 3-year term is up, do we have the ability to do that without any kind of penalty? I mean, maybe that goes to Supervisor Pinch's concerns.
I will defer to council. I don't have the agreement before me. Usually we put a month-to-month or a 30-day notice in those leases. I've not seen the actual, and we do not have that contract in front of us, so perhaps,
Perhaps, several questions have been brought up. Perhaps we just withdraw this from the agenda today and bring it back next week. Have some of those questions answered. Would that be appropriate?
yeah, if you could,
Just put it off for a week? and,
actually, if you could table it till later today, you've got a horrendous workload coming up on the 24th. You haven't
Okay.
seen that agenda yet, but it is a 90-day notice of termination, Supervisor Smith.
So what's the action of the board? Or you want to,
So to the chair, that gives us an exit option.
Yeah.
If something else were to be identified
right,
in a period of time within the 3 years, and perhaps that really will be part of our consideration. I mean, we're always looking at ways to reduce our external costs in that manner. So I think it does give us the option.
right.
And if it truly is below current market rates, then it really is maybe a good option for now, and then we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I'm seeing this as the present-day rent of $3,017 a month. That equates to $36,204 a year. We're seeing an increase to $51,276. To me, that's only a $15,000 increase. That's right around $1,000 a month. So to me, it's not unreasonable whatsoever. In these days and times, though, I appreciate Supervisor Pinch's concern about every dime, every dollar, every $100. So I'm not in opposition of this. So it's up to the board how we want to go.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm not going to support this because frankly, for over a $50,000 payment, especially the real estate market the way it is right now, that would buy one heck of a building. That's what we're making, it's $51,000 a month payment, and we're not getting nothing. If we would go out tomorrow morning and buy a building, you can buy a heck of a retail building around Ukiah Valley for a $50,000 a year payment. So that's, if we're going to be in the probation business or any other business, which we are for years to come, it don't make much sense to be spending that kind of money on lease. Why don't we just go buy a building? I mean, we're spending $51,000 a year for rent and getting nothing. At least we'll build some equity in that piece of property. And now, frankly, is the time, if you're going to buy a building, to buy it. And there are buildings available. If you look around Ukiah, there's several retail office space buildings for sale in the Ukiah Valley.
When as previously discussed, we do have the 90-day withdrawal clause, so we can give the direction to look for a new location, either purchase or a lease, et cetera, and still approve this and move it ahead. So it's however you want to do it.
I would concur with the looking around and getting